Oh, a microphony.
And a phony at the mic.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
The Doctor of Discernment is now online.
You know, much like my show, in that it's a local reaction to things that are happening on a federal level.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Wow, do I have a boatload of stuff for you, from the crazy to the absurd. Let's start getting into it because, I mean, it is bizarro world out there. And I say, if it's obvious to me, it should be obvious to everybody. Oh, wow. Who could have seen this coming?
This is the Fourth Hour with Greg Belfrage.
Hold on to your butts.
Broadcasting from the basement bunker beneath Kettle Radio. Welcome to the Fourth Hour. It's great to have you along yet again. Thank you so much for being here. I was getting sucked into a couple of videos here this morning, and let's start with Dan Bongino's interview on Fox News yesterday. Bongino was talking about what's going on, and this is crazy. There's a lot of stuff here. Now, this video is quite long. I'm looking forward to watching this interview in its entirety. Here's Bongino.
So the moment Cash and I swore in, we realized that the first thing we had to do is rebuild public trust. This is your FBI. It's not mine. I tell the employees every day, you don't own it, you don't own it, I don't own it. It's like being the center fielder for the Yankees. That'll live with you forever, but you don't own the Yankees. It's a proud franchise. The place has taken a reputational hit. There is zero question about it. There were a lot of bad actors. One of them still out there causing us all kinds of trouble. So
Jim Comey.
We had to fix it and rebuild public trust. One of the ways to do it is these cases of significant public interest that matter. You know, we had 2 pipe bombs planted on January 6th. I mean, we were told by partisan actors out there this was the insurrection, the world was going to fall apart, and no one seemed to show any interest in this case. The second we got in, I put a team on it, and I said, I want answers on this. And I'm pretty confident that we're closing in on some suspects.
Now get a load of this.
The reason, by the way, I use social media with these cases, I'm trying to communicate on social media, is nothing's by accident, guys. I do nothing by accident. Every time I put a tweet out on it, we get tips. We got a fascinating tip on one of these cases, one of the 3. I want to say which one.
January 6th.
I'm confident that we're going to close out one of them, hopefully shortly. And then the cocaine in the White House, you know, I saw someone on social media, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. We work for you, but said, I don't care about the case. Yeah, I do. I was a Secret Service agent. A potentially hazardous material made its way into the White House. Nobody seems to know how it got there, and nobody seemed to investigate it fully. Like, you know, what planet do we live on where that's not of public interest?
So you're faced with this interesting thing.
I ask that all the time. What planet do we live on? He's absolutely right. How many times? I mean, bizarro world. That's exactly what Bongino was saying here. It's bizarro world, man. And that interview is pretty intriguing. I'm looking forward to catching more of that. Let's see what else. I want to see what else I've got for you. There were a number of stories I wanted to grab. Here we go. This and stuff like this just absolutely makes me crazy. And you'll understand as we get into this. This is a government employee in Virginia arrested yesterday, trying to share classified information with an officer or agent of a foreign government, apparently looking to friendly foreign governments. So in other words, and then this happens, you have countries that are friendly with each other still spying each other. They're still looking to find out whatever they can get. So this 28-year-old IT specialist at the Defense Intelligence Agency, FBI received a tip that somebody was willing to spill the beans, share information to a friendly foreign government. And the reason? Yeah, he didn't like Trump. He didn't like Trump. He didn't agree or align with the values of the Trump administration. And therefore, you know what? Of course, you sell out your country. Where in the fresh hell do people like that come from? That just drives me crazy. Where does that come from? I mean, all of us, I think we understand, you know, you go through, maybe you don't care for this administration or you don't care for that administration, but you're willing to sell out your country's secrets? We have got to root people like that. Now imagine, as we're talking about Dan Bongino and what they're going through, and most of the people in the FBI don't want to denigrate the FBI because you've got a lot of good people, and I think I've always known that, even at James Comey and all of that stuff. I think we understood there are good people in the FBI, and now you start getting other good people in there. What do you see? The good people coming forward and saying, hey, do you know about this? Do you know about this? One of the other things Bongino talked about, and I shared that this morning on the air, was this so-called it wasn't a hidden room, but it was a room where essentially nobody had been. And it's a room where instead of digitizing FBI records and so on, there was Comey era records that had been placed in this room out of public sight, out of sight, out of mind. Instead of digitizing those records as they're required to do. I mean, it's just a lot of things that are going on there that would just give, I think, most of us pause. That's your federal government in action. And it's just incredible. So you see what happens. You get responsible people in charge of the federal government who are looking at this stuff. And Bongino is like, this is just otherworldly. That is, I get it. I mean, that's why we've been talking about Bizarro World on the show for how long? It is otherworldly. This stuff defies common sense. You just see it over and over again. More to share with you. Senator Ron Johnson was on Newsmax, and I want to share a portion of this because he was talking about spending and what's going on with federal government spending. He's saying it is completely out of control.
Listen, I support the president. I support his agenda. We want to grow our economy. So what I've been suggesting is we need to have the full debate here. In the House, about the only number you heard in a budget reconciliation process where we ought to be talking about a bunch of numbers is $1.5 trillion. That was completely without context. It sounds like a lot of money, but over 10 years, it's only $150 billion a year when we've increased spending from $4.4 trillion to $7 trillion in just the last 6 years. We basically doubled spending in the last 10 or 11 years. 2014, we spent $3.5 trillion. Now we're spending over $7 trillion. So again, it's completely out of control. There's no justification to continue to spend what we spent during an emergency pandemic. We had far more responsible leaders back in World War II. After World War II, they reduced spending to below pre-war levels. We need to have that same kind of commitment from leaders in Congress as well as the president to return to a pre-pandemic level of spending. Don't start at a completely unjustified level of spending over $7 trillion and suffer death by 1,000 cuts. It's too hard to cut these things. Can't touch that. Start from a reasonable baseline. I've laid out a number of options. Take a look at, why should we spend more than what we spent in 1998 or 2014 or 2019 plus up for inflation and population? Justify it. So from my standpoint, what we need to do is we need to break this into a couple parts. I've always been supportive of a multi-step process. Let's focus on things we have to get done. Let's make sure we maintain leverage on the process to get to a pre-pandemic level, but let's take the time to go through the budget line by line, like Elon Musk did with Doge. He's shown us how to do it. You have to focus on all spending, every line item, and make these agencies and the federal government justify why we're spending so much.
It's beautiful. I mean, I absolutely understand what he's saying. You go through it line by line, take a look at this, that the idea that, and all he's asking for is getting back to pre-pandemic levels, right? Pre-pandemic, because you know what happened with pandemic, man. That was an invitation to just spend like mad. And that's what the federal government did. Spend. Because we got a pandemic and we got businesses closed, and which never should have happened in the first place. We never should have been closing businesses in the way that it was being done. And then having to go out, and then the federal government coming in and saying, oh, we're going to take care of these businesses. We're going to offer all these programs. And there was fraud that ran like crazy through all of that, those loans and so on. That's your federal government in action. This is why folks like me just go nuts. When we see this kind of stuff, the government can't administer these things. It's going to be rife with fraud, waste, and abuse. And Senator Johnson is absolutely right. This is why I think the big, beautiful bill, we'll see what happens. But, I like President Trump, and as does Senator Johnson. And he's talked about that. He's like, I like President Trump. I want to do, I want to move forward on this, and this. And he was very specific. These are things I want to move forward on. I support this, and this, and this. But don't tell us that we can't cut more waste, fraud, and abuse out of the federal government. He's making a pretty compelling case, and we'll see where that goes. Okay. This story, I think I had shared this previously, which is one of the reasons why I want to come back to this. This is from the New York Post. It was a story involving a migrant who was arrested over this handwritten letter threatening an assassination against Trump. Remember, I shared this with you, I think, yesterday? I shared this with you earlier this week. So he's an illegal alien from Mexico. And he was arrested over this handwritten letter threatening to assassinate Donald Trump. The New York Post is now saying this guy may have been set up. So he was taken into custody in Wisconsin. And sources are saying that a handwriting analysis has shown that this guy, who you see right here, didn't actually write the letter. And that the person who did may already be behind bars and may have been trying to set this guy up because he's an apparent witness in his criminal case. Okay, crazy. But what do you see? This is what I think is really kind of important. Please excuse me. And this is what I want you to take away from this. What are you seeing here? You're seeing actual investigation. We're looking into it. We're not just assuming, oh, that person's guilty, boom. We're looking into it. We're uncovering evidence. We're fine. This is classic police work. And that's what you're seeing from the administration. So they're beginning to look into it, and they're saying, no, actually, it doesn't appear this guy. He's trying to set this guy up because he witnessed in his criminal case. Yikes. And this is what I think what the federal government deals with. This is what law enforcement deals with all of the time. Such a supporter of law enforcement. As you see over my shoulder, we back the blue. Okay, David Hogg is back in the news. Drops a name that could be neck deep in the Biden cover-up. Who was in control of that auto pen? That story is getting more and more, not so much that I'm going to talk about it on the radio program. I will talk about it here. So David Hogg, this is another one of these secret Project Veritas videos of David Hogg. And it's Anthony Bernal is the name that was dropped. Anthony Bernal was Jill Biden's former chief of staff. And so here is the video. This audio may be a little bit hot here, but I want you to see this. Here we go.
Yes, nice to meet you. Yeah. Off the record, of course. Foundational question for me is how corrupt is the DNC? If
so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden?
Well,
the president of the United States.
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe
There's
Biden's
another
chief of
guy
staff,
off camera now.
like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Jill Biden's chief of
That
staff.
was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Bernal.
Anthony Bernal, there he is.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's like a shadowy, like, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so, like, I knew how he looked, but I'm like, the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had at the White House.
So you get these people who are literally, they are not elected officials. They are, so this Anthony Bernal, and you see this, White House staff described him as the worst person they had ever met, according to Jake Tapper's new book. So the more you learn about the Biden White House, this is like crazy. And David Hogg saying he had an enormous amount of power. This stuff is just wild. And I think there is going to be more regarding the Biden administration that we're going to learn and what was going on during Joe Biden's presidency. Okay, there was one other story I want to share outside of the political vein that I'll share with you this morning. And this is like crazy, man. I see these stories. What is going on? It's a brawl at a kindergarten graduation in Arkansas. And there you see it. Take a look at this craziness, man. They are just... So let's see what happens. Footage went viral. Kids screaming for them to stop. This is just wild. Let's see what is that. That's, I think, just a photo. I was trying to, here we go. Here's the actual.
First at 5 tonight, jaw-dropping
What?
video.
I mean, okay, now what's going on? You're there in your kid's kindergarten class, and you're gonna start shoving, pushing, beating. What? I mean, I laugh because I just watched it, and I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with people? That to me is just like, it's absolutely unacceptable under any situation. And I'm standing there, and it's my kid's kindergarten class, and some deal going, and I'm going to start shoving people? What in the world gets in, is there, hello, is anybody up there? It just is, I just shake my head. Again, I just laugh out of frustration because what else do you do? It's a crazy world out there. And that's why I've always called it, bizarro world, because definitely what it seems like to me from the cheap seats. Hey, you made it to the end of the video today. So you are part of my gallery of champions. A special salute to the Bunker Brigade, those of you who are here each and every day. And again, we're back up and running on my YouTube page, my initial YouTube page. And thanks for your patience as we sorted all of that out. So hit that like button before you leave. I'll be even more grateful. And I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. I will see you again on Monday. So until then, I'm underground and gold.